Okay, it's the end of the session. Koa is drinking some water because we just did a lot of work in Southern California in February, so it's like 80 degrees outside. So the video above is going to talk about the circling method, Denise Fenzi's circling method. I really think the Guardians it would be a good idea if you guys can purchase that course, because I think it's $50 and you'll be able to watch the videos and just kind of work your way up. It'll go into a lot more detail. But right now, until then, start taking him to the park. One of the Guardians comes home from work to take Koa out for a walk, and he had like a circuit, like a 1.5 mile circuit. When dogs are actually walking, they sniff. Sniffing burns more energy than actually walking. And so actually, I would rather, instead of having to do that, go to the park and make it so you're getting some exercise in, but you're also building in a skill set. Now remember, if they're dogs that are really reactive, kind of increase the distance from them. Look for dogs that are kind of chill and more sedate. They're going to be easier to deal with. You want to come over here and get in the shot a little bit? Here, buddy. I would invite you on the couch, but that's going to be one of the rules we're going to talk about. All right, how about you sit? He's like, but you literally asked me. Sit. Better camera presence. Isn't he a good-looking dog?
Oh, yeah.
He's only been here a couple of weeks. Yeah. He came from Wags and Whiskers.
Wags and Walks.
Excuse me. It's a great rescue group in LA. If you're looking to adopt a dog, please check them out. All right. So he also goes to Wags to Whiskers, which is one of my favorite daycares in LA, because he has some issues with other dogs, and they don't kick dogs out. Most places do. They just created a room for him. All right, but the goal of the whole session was to try to create a healthy leader-follower dynamic so that he doesn't need to be away from other dogs. And the nice thing about the Fenzi method is eventually we're going to be able to work closer and closer to dogs. And the idea is to help him practice being relaxed around the dogs. Now, before we get into anything, did you get that in between you in a weird place? Let me talk a little bit about the cats. So I recommended a treat and train. It's a pet-safe device, and they're about 80 to $110, depending on where you get them. Message me if you can't find it. So you have the little baby gate over there. What I would do is I would have one of you over here there you go.
That's me.
That's for E. So basically what you want to do is I would have the cats here and Koa on the other side, or vice versa, but it'd probably be easier to have the cats here and Koa over there. Now when you first get the treat and train, just put it on you can put it in a kennel as well, another great thing. So and it makes a beeping sound. Turn the beep on. So he has a little remote control. You press the button and beep, and then 2 pieces of kibble come out. And there's a couple trays, so you can just read the instructions, they'll go through it. And basically the idea is at first he hears the beep, and then he knows the treats are gonna come. Do this before you introduce it with the cat. So we want him to hear the treat, and he immediately looks in the treat and train. Then the idea would be, we would have the treat and train over there, it's battery powered, you have the remote control here, and you're sitting here on the couch with the cats, and you're kind of watching him, and your layout here is perfect, because the TV's here and the doorway's right there. So you're kind of watching, you see Koa look at the cats, press the button, and position so he has to turn away from the cats to get the treats. And at first, as soon as he looks at the cats, you click, and it beep, and he gets the treat. After a while, you want him to look for a second, then we do it, then 2 seconds, then 3 seconds, and eventually he'll spend some time there. This might be a replacement for one of his meals at times, where he's just getting fed his kibble by watching the cats. And what is he doing? He's practicing being calm around the cats, and that's really the name of the game. If he sees the cats are running around and he bounds around, he's going to be practicing that. That's why when we talked about coming back from the park, should we take that really busy street? We don't want to do that because they're practicing everything they do. And so now that's another practice session of doing that. I would much rather have you go to the park there and work on that at weird times of the day when there aren't going to be so many people there. So instead of doing your walks for now, keep on taking that park, and then eventually you want to find another park where there's a little bit busier, or if this park is too busy, you might need to find another park you drive to that's a little bit slower, or just find different times of the day. And remember, anytime these reactive things, increase distance. When you're on walks, if you see somebody coming down towards you and it's going to be a choke point, look at the territory and the terrain ahead of you. There's a fence here, and there's cars parked here, and there's nowhere to go. Well, then kind of walk off the side, maybe do a couple circles on the lawn and let that other dog come and clear it, or walk in the street if you can. You can't obviously on Bundy, but in different parts of the town, and try to use that truck. So if the dog is walking here, and you're maybe it's on this side, and this is the street, and the dog's walking here, time it up so that when you're getting close enough, the car is in between you, so the dog can't see. And you might have to pause a little bit and direct the other people. Don't be afraid to do that, like the guy I did, and you want to go this way, that way? Because I would go that way, and then we kind of timed it out. So, but anytime he's reacting, the best thing you can do is increase distance. Once he's reacting, he's not going to hear anything. He's hysterical. So don't try to get him to sit or talk to him, because a lot of times you're just going to pour gasoline on a fire, and that's what the most common thing we do. Why aren't you listening? Because I'm hysterical. Well, if they're hysterical, you'll pull the leash. We don't want to pull them on the leash. Again, that's the best thing, is to kind of manage it by looking ahead. Okay, let's summarize the stuff we went over. The first thing we talked about was exercise. The treat toss on the stairs. Remember, empty stomach, and you want to, first time do it, come up with a funny word that means go down the stairs, Mexico and Denver, or whatever you want to say. So the treat goes in the mouth first, and then he hears the command word. So you throw the treat, get that retractable leash, let him run down there with an empty stomach. He licks it up, say Mexico, show him you have another treat, come back up, give him one Denver. Eventually, you probably only have to do it, if he just rounds back up to you, you might only have to throw it down there. And I have one client that actually has to go to a public place to do it. They don't have stairs. They went and got a piece of carpet, and they cut it exactly the bottom of the stairwell, and they just rolled it up like a yoga mat, took it out, and it was white because it was the concrete. It was hard to see it. And they threw it down there. It was nice and soft when the dog got to the bottom of there, and they could see where the treat was. So, and I also look for a carpet store for the area rug that you want to get here. Just say, hey, do you have sell remnant sheets of carpet? I guarantee you'll find somewhere you get it for like $5-10 for really like $25 a yard carpet.
Awesome.
So the remember the first time do it with an empty stomach, and really always do it with an empty stomach, but the first time with an empty stomach, and keep on throwing them up and down until he says no more, and he refuses to go. Count each down up as 1. And find out what that range is. You want to find like a high range, a low range, about 50 to 75% of that maximum number. If he's being a nuisance, he's coming up and he's chortling and he's nudging you, or he's squirming, you got people coming over or whatever, or you want to work with the cats, exercise him first. Exercise sets him up for success. Lack of it before a walk. Do that. Bring him back here, let him rest for 10 minutes, and then go for a walk. Look at that, he's pooped. All right, now don't overdo it, because we don't want to be, because then we're too cranky. So the other things that we can do is the scent games. Just Google scent games. There's all sorts of free ones. There's books and DVDs you can buy, but just hiding treats around. Maybe when you're taking him on a walk, you set it up, he comes back in. Let him kind of rest first, and then eventually he'll just kind of, I smell chicken liver. And he goes and finds them and say hunt, search, find, whatever, seek, whatever the word is you say every time he licks them up. Also get a snuffle mat. Get one that's probably about, a pretty good sized one, because he's a good sized dog. Work his kibble in there. And if he picks it up, get one of those dumbbells and put those dumbbells on top of it. But work it in there, so he's got to use his nose to find it. And that's like equivalent to a walk by feeding him. Also get an Omega paw treat ball. Get the large one. When he's being a nuisance, that would be another thing. Fill it up with a half a cup of kibble and let him chase it around the room. That helps with his problem solving. It is something for him to do. Also get him at least 20 toys. So 20 would be the minimum. So get different flavored, get a bunch of different Nyla bones is what they're called. Make sure they're rigid. And get them different sizes, shapes, and flavors. Get a couple of antlers. Get a water buffalo horn or two. Make sure the water buffalo horn is pretty solid. If it's too flimsy, it'll splinter. If he's splintering it, send it back. Okay. And that'll smell funky for about a week or two, and after that it won't smell, so that's okay for a week or two. Also get him a couple bones. Now sometimes they have fake marrow. I wouldn't use a real marrow bone because that will smell really funky, but just having stuff for him to chew on is really important. Get a metal mesh basket, put it somewhere off to the side, and every day at the end of the day pick up all the toys, put them in there. That way he has something to do. Go grab a toy and play with it here and leave it here. But when he gets them each day, you should find them in his kennel. For the kennel, make sure you go to doggonproblems.com, click on where it says Dog Training Tips, search for Ray, R-E-Y. It's a German Shepherd in Omaha. And practice the kennel training exercise that I show you in that video. Also, get the bully sticks that I left here. Make sure you be careful, because he will climb up to get those. So put them somewhere, maybe above the microwave. The natural dog companies who I get them from get the odor-free or the low odor. And get the bully sticks, not the bully bites. Drill a hole in the back and zip it to the back, really right down about here. So it's just basically he can lay down there, and I'd move the bowls a little bit so he can get a good chew on. So we want him to practice being in the kennel with nice, good things happening. Every once in a while, close the door, drop some either a bully stick or a bunch of treats in there, and wait for him to paw and want to get in there. Open it, let him go in there, and again, use the new command word for that so he has a positive association. He needs to practice being in here when you're watching TV, when you're watching video games. The exercise I show you with Ray in the video will help with that, but if you do it right, he should just kind of go in there and hang out on his own. I should also show you how to do the dog bed. I would get this is fine from Wags, but I would just maybe go to like someplace and get like a sheet and wrap it around this so it's white or light gray or light cream, so he's going to see the stuff easier. I like to get the ones that are, but it's more expensive. Well, not more expensive, you have to buy another one. But if you ever get another one, get a white or light cream one. So again, remember their eyes are not very good for detail. Okay, so when we want to practice being in here, so this doesn't always mean that you're going to leave me. Okay, what else we talked about? For exercise, Sniffing on walks, I guess we already talked about that. Okay, we also talked about rules. Now remember, it's not mean to enforce a rule. And it's actually comforting for dogs to see you acting like a leader because they have confidence in you as a leader. And they're not going to listen to you and respect you as a leader until you act like it. And enforcing rules is a wonderful way to act like a leader. So some of the rules that I suggested was, number one, not being on the couch, not just every once in a while, not being on the couch. And these rules should be in place, all of them, for at least 90 days, minimum. That's the bare minimum. Nobody should be in the minimum. So probably, I usually say 90 days or as long as the problems are still going on. Especially for the dog. If the cats are eventually going to be allowed up here and he's not, that helps him see them at a different level. Yeah. For the cats, make sure you get those shelves, not shelves, but shelves on the wall, but not shelves like that, but just a single shelf and another single shelf, and maybe one over that painting, so they could be in a high perch. You want to give the dogs an escape route because you had a bad incident with the cat. So if the cats in every room have a place that they can get to that the dog can't get to, cats are very quick and nimble and they will figure that out pretty quickly. Then at least if you're not here and he knocks the gate down or somehow he opens the door, the cat has a safe route. Yeah. Okay, so let me see. A couple housekeeping things. Dogs learn through repetition, consistency, and good timing. Remember, you have 3 seconds to correct a reward. Don't repeat yourself. Repeating yourself will make the dog stop listening for the word, and also illustrates that you're not a real leader because you don't follow through. Anything your dog is doing when you pet it is what you're specifically rewarding, including unbalanced states of mind like fear, stress, and anxiety. Anything that you don't disagree with is the same thing as agreeing. The one caveat to this I didn't mention earlier, if he's barking at me, I would ignore that. Because if he barks at me and I don't ignore it, well, or I say stop it, well, that's what I wanted. Remember, good attention, bad attention, pretty much the same thing. So if he's barking at the window, I would disagree with that. If he's barking at me, I'm just like, you're dead to me. And that's why we talked about passive training and petting with purpose, which we'll talk about in a minute. All right, other rules. You might want to get painter's tape. I would recommend going from the far side of your couch there, about 3 feet out, and then going across probably to about where the doorway, the edge of the door is that goes outside. So you create a box here. When you're eating here, any snacks or any food, he's not allowed to be in this area. Technically, he could be in the dog bed, but that would even be pushing it a little bit. When you're in the kitchen preparing food, he's not allowed to be in there. We're going to make him sit. We're going to let him in and out that door often and make him sit before we open the door. Remember, say sit once. If he doesn't sit within 3 seconds, we walk away, sit down, wait 1 minute, then wait, then go back and command him again. This time he doesn't sit within 3 seconds. I walk for 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 8 minutes. And it's either my way or the highway. I'm not going to correct you. I'm not going to chastise you. There's no punishment. You just don't get the reward. So we don't use punishment in modern dog training. We just create scenarios where if he does what we want, he gets reward. If he does anything else, nothing happens. After a while, he'll do what we want. Let me think. Another thing to go to doggoneproblems.com and click on the dog training tips and search for Calm Leash. That will show you how to keep him calm and practice that several times a day. I would also practice wait at door or search for wait at door. Eventually, you want to get to the point where you desensitize him for the door the way I show you in the Calm Leash video. But eventually, you get to the board and you open the door and he just sits there, waits for permission to go out the door. That's also a wonderful thing to do. Another video to search for is Honey. Honey is a golden doodle that was like doing super dog trying to jump up. So you're going to do that exercise I showed you the very first thing when I got here. So when you guys come home, text each other and get a regular 6-foot straight leash, step on it about as far away as his tail is from his collar. So in his case, about this far. You want to give him a little bit of room and make sure the person come in and has enough room to come in and close the door and the dog can't reach. And just follow that video. I'll go through all of them. I'm not going to go through it here. All right, let me see. We also talked about petting with a purpose and passive training. Petting with a purpose. If he comes up and nudges you, paws at you, yodels, whatever it is, leaders tell, followers ask. He needs to learn to ask. But if he tells you what to do and you do it, well, then listening to you is not only lack of rules. Listening to you is optional. If I tell you what to do and you do it, then I'm in charge of you, and that is related to him protecting you outside. So instead, when he nudges you, you give him a counter order. Tell him to sit. If he's already sitting here, ask him to sit here, or better yet, tell him to sit there. If he's not sitting, or you could also tell him to lie down. But you want to do something in proximity to you here. And if he doesn't within 3 seconds, remember, playing hard to get works great for dating. It works great for dog training too. If you don't sit, buddy, I'm going to sit back here and watch TV. And you missed out on the opportunity. That will make your attention more valuable to him. When he does sit, pet him under his chin and say the word sit. And then pet him as much or as little as you want. And be careful how you say it. You can either say sit or sit. Either one is fine, but just be consistent. And then pet him as much or as little as you want. After a while, he'll recognize, I can't tell you anymore. I have to ask, and better than ask, I have to prepay for attention. He'll come start sitting in front of you. When he does, make sure you do recognize and pet him. Otherwise, he will go back to nudging you. And even if you want to pet him, you should still tell him to sit. And if he doesn't get that attention. Remember to use the watchword of paycheck. Paycheck means I suspect you forgot to pet with purpose. Even if you did it right, you stop petting, tell him to sit. It's another opportunity to practice again. Then you tell the person, actually, I did ask him to sit and you missed it. But thanks for reminding me. Also, passive training is we're celebrating the things the dog does that we like. So every time he comes to you, because his come is not that great, pet him and say come. You might want to change it to here. Some dogs have heard come so many times they just have filtered it out. I like using here, it's a more distinctive word, but either one is fine. So every time he sits, pet him and say sit. Every time he lays down, pet him and say crash or whatever. I say, for me, crash means lay down like this. What he's doing on his side, I call flop, and then on his back, I call pancake. Remember to use funny command words anytime you're coming up with new things. So everything he does, when he takes water, say your favorite cocktail. When he takes his food, say your name of your favorite food. And so name all your individual toys. So that way you can tell him, go get that toy. Also, he's a little mouthy and nippy. So I'd like you to practice each one of you at least once a day. More is better. But practice playing tug of war. Get a couple rope toys. That one's fine, but get another one or two and practice with it. And every once in a while it gets round up. Remember, you can both interrupt each other. I'd like you to play with him and roughhouse him, and same thing with you. And at any point, either you stop yourself and sit, lay down. If he does, then we can continue playing. If he doesn't, then the game is done. Mm-hmm. And that way you can also check each other. If you think it's getting a little too intense, you're like, time out, or demonstrate, or come up with testify, whatever the word is. And that means you have to stop what you're doing and demonstrate that you have control of the dog. The control that he needs to not attack the cats that's a great exercise. I know we didn't actually work with the cats, and I wasn't listening to you. I wanted to give you things, I'm a little bit like Mr. Miyagi. I wanted to give you things that will teach the skill set that you without directly with the cats. That's just too much for him. But if you can get him to stop what he's doing, sit, that control is what you need before you can start going to the next stage. Let me see, what else do we go over? I guess that kitchen boundary, that's another thing you can search for. Go to my website, Dog Training Tips, and search for either the word invisible or kitchen. And it'll teach you how to keep your dog to stay away from you, those areas. But that's also another great way for him to demonstrate some self-control. You can do the same principle for that with leaving the kennel door, the gate open over there with the cats safely away, so he just can't go across that threshold. It's kind of similar to what I'm going to show you in the video that you're going to watch for Ray. Trying to think, is there anything else you want me to go over? Oh, make sure you're eating first. Eat 5 bites of a chip, cracker, whatever it is. And then after that, then he gets to eat. And when he gets done eating, pick up the bowl and dump any remaining food out and put the empty bowl back down. There's no more you eat later on, because then that also becomes a resource he might want to protect with the cats. There's other things there that can be involved. These are the training treats. These are chicken liver. Get the soft and chewy chicken liver from Treaty Trainers. You write down the Stevens, the doggy crack that I have. Make sure when you're, and get that straight 6-foot leash without the bungee or the rest of that stuff. Practice the heck out of that, but eventually get to the point where he'll start offering you circles automatically, and eventually you won't have to circle. If he sees something he doesn't like, he'll just turn and walk away from it. That's a wonderful thing. That will also help with the cats. Now, if you have any questions on any of the things, please text me. The number I'm going to give you after we finish the video is my main phone number. I'll give you some business cards, but those are going to be for people who are not new clients. As a client, I want you to call me, preferably text me, because I get a lot of telemarketing calls. Koa, would you like a piece of crack? Come here, buddy.
He's like, oh, I'm tired.
Come on. You gonna get that?
He's like,
oh, yeah.
Oh.
All right, buddy, you can get that one. Koa. Koa. It's like, this crack is chewy. You want another piece? There you go. This is my buddy Koa, and this is Koa's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you meet him.